different, analogy or comparison there. But alas, with there being so much sports to talk about here on the show tonight, and I don't know a whole lot more what I can say about the Ronda Holly match, other than, like I said, it really to me was just a ton of Ronda having the wrong strategy, the wrong approach in the actual fight. And I credit my UFC source and his insight when he pointed out to me, both in pre-fight interviews and after the weigh-in, that he felt that Holly Holmes had effectively played mind games on Ronda, and that they had worked, and she was in Ronda's head, and Ronda was going to lose via mental mistakes and errors. And that's, in my opinion, when I watched the fight, that's exactly what happened, like I said. And I'm not trying to take anything away from Holly Holm whatsoever. But anytime you've got two people who don't suck at a specific thing, one might be super awesome and the other one's just pretty good. But when they're both at least pretty good at something, and they're going head-to-head against each other, one person has a great strategy, the other person has the most flawed, counterproductive strategy for the one they're going up against possible. Almost every time, the person with the better strategy is going to win. Any competition, any sport, any name. I don't care, what you want to insert there. So I really think that's where this fight was decided, and I cannot wait for the rematch. There will be a rematch. It will be in July approximately, and I cannot wait for the rematch. I hope Ronda wins because I'm a Ronda fan. Nothing against Holly, but I hope that Ronda is willing to come back from this with a little bit of humility and a little bit better focus. Because she just, like I said, it made no sense. She was trying to out-brawl someone and outstrike someone who their one strength that they had that they were better at than Ronda was that. So just this, I don't know if it's a delusional arrogance, or if it's a, molding of her brand, to sell now and beyond. And knowing that, there are certain fighting styles that are more exciting and that people gravitate to more. But if Ronda is willing to learn from this last fight and take that into the next fight, like I said, it was a strategy thing. It wasn't a talent or skill thing. People are also saying, oh, Ronda's fallen off. Ronda's lost a step, whatever. People are saying all kinds of stuff. So many people happy, elated that Ronda, went down. Not one of them, but countless people across the world are Ronda haters, because she's polarizing. You love her or you hate her. You don't like her or dislike her. Like, you love her or you hate her. As I was referring to earlier, because she's captivating, she's interesting. But should she come into the rematch looking not to create and impose her own offense, but take what the fight is giving them, what the other fighter is giving them, Ronda will win. Ronda is a better, more well-rounded UFC fighter than Holly Holm is, in my opinion. But Ronda was stupid enough to try and out-kickbox a 13-time world kickboxing champion, and she lost. So, like I said, Ronda, please, I hope you're listening. Hope you're not too mad at me, baby. But I'm telling you, next fight, you just gotta be patient, okay? Let Holly throw her punches, kicks, and combos. You block them properly for once, okay? Start with blocking them properly. Then you look to counter those with your offense, or catch those strikes, use them to go into a takedown, slap on a submission, and get out of there, like we all know you can do, you know. But for whatever reason, you refuse to win that way, and thus you got your ass handed to you. I think it's the best thing that could have possibly happened to the business and the brand that is UFC. Not necessarily Ronda Rousey, per se. Maybe. Time will tell. Again, where Ronda Rousey's careers go from here are all contingent on the rematch. None of it will really be affected at all by this match. The rematch will determine that, because if Holly comes out in the rematch and destroys Ronda again, like, that will be a huge blow to all of Ronda's career aspirations in fighting, in acting, in everything, in WWE, you name it. It's going to have a huge impact on that. It's going to be a very crippling, well, I don't know if crippling is the right word, but a very damaging blow to her image and her marketability. Now, if she is to come back in 6 months in the rematch and go, Holly, I went in there disrespecting Holly. I was wrong to do that. Holly is amazing. And because of that fight against Holly, I have refocused, and I am better than I have ever been before. And should she come out and prove that, and then beat Holly in the rematch, and then one more after that, where it wasn't so much that Holly's win was a fluke, but that Holly's win was a result of Holly's best going up against Ronda's less than her best. And if we put Ronda's best up against Holly's best, Ronda still comes out on top. I think that's, the ideal situation for Ronda. For the UFC, Holly's the only one that takes, doesn't quite win all the way around in that scenario. But yeah, I got to get off that fight, even though it took me. I have not been able to stop thinking about that fight since it happened. And again, I am just so thankful that I got my keister to Buffalo Wild Wings just in the nick of time, so that I could watch that historic, epic battle. But let's recap real quickly all the fights that took place at UFC 193, and then let us officially put out Balls on Fire and move to the next segment in our show, whatever the heck that's going to be. All right, so as I mentioned, in the main event for the bantamweight title, we had Holly Holm defeating champion Ronda Rousey via knockout head kick at 59 seconds into round 2. In the fight before that, which I knew was going to be a pretty good fight, I'm surprised it went the distance, went to decision. That shocked me. I thought Valerie was going to get destroyed, knocked out, that's it. But champion Joanna Jędrzejczyk, some of these last names are tough. She defeated Valerie Letourneau via unanimous decision, 49-46, 49-46, 50-45. So, fairly one-sided of a fight in Joanna's favor. But like I said, just the fact that Valerie went the distance against the beast that is Joanna Jędrzejczyk. I don't know how to say her last name. Joanna's a beast, okay? She is a beast. Little tiny thing, but just wicked. I don't care how big and strong and mean of a dude you think you are or you are. This is the type of little 115, 120 pound girl that if you saw in the bar or anywhere, you would not want to mess with her, because she would straight up knock your lights out. She's just this little feisty, super tough, badass chick. But so it went, like I said, kudos. What's the word I'm looking for? Consolation prize, moral victory. There we go, for Valerie Letourneau, lasting the entire fight, making it, the distance at least against the champ Joanna, who proved her superiority via unanimous decision. Before that, we had Mark Hunt defeating Antonio Silva, and that was my pick. I picked Mark Hunt to defeat Antonio Silva. That to me was one of the toughest ones to pick, on paper at least, given their history and everything. But I don't feel like Bigfoot Silva really has anything left in his tank. That was my main reason. I was more picking against Bigfoot. But Mark Hunt defeated Antonio Silva via knockout punch at 3:41 of round 1. That's right, first round knockout to Bigfoot. Then also the other 2 fights on the main card, we had Robert Whitaker defeating Uriah Hall. I believe I picked Hall on that one. Maybe I did pick Whitaker. That was another coin flip of just, striker versus striker. And they're both about the same to me. Don't know. But Whitaker defeated Uriah Hall via unanimous decision, 30-27, 30-27, 29-28. So maybe a little bit one of your more boring fights, at least on the main card. I'm not saying it was, but maybe. And then your snoozer on the main card was Jared Rosholt defeating Stefan Struve via unanimous decision, 29-28, 29-28, 29-28. All right, so then in the undercard matches, which, like I said, most of which I caught. Not every single one, but most of which I caught. We had Ben Guyan defeat Ryan Benoit via submission, rear naked choke, at 2:36 of round 1. We had James Muntasri defeat Anton Zafri via KO spinning back kick, at 4:36 of round 1. See, if you're noticing something here, especially on these undercard ones, highlight finishes to these matches. So many just highlight knockouts, blows. The prelims were awesome, or entertaining at least. But Rick Walsh, moving on, the prelims defeated Steve Kennedy. I love those names. Thanks, guys. Via unanimous decision, 30-27, 30-27, 29-28. Then we had Daniel Kelly defeat Steve Montgomery via unanimous decision, all 29-28 on that card. Danny Martinez, watch this one, defeated Richie Vachulik via unanimous decision, 30-27, 30-27, 30-27. We also had Gian Vellante defeat Anthony Peroche. Just destroyed the old man Peroche. Hometown from Australia there. He was like 43 taking on a 30-year-old, something like that. Anyway, Gian Vellante defeated Anthony Peroche via KO knockout punch at 2:56 of round 1. Kyle Noak knocked out Peter Sabato. Watched that one too. That was a good one. Kyle Noak was one of the winners from Australia. Anthony Peroche representing the host country of Australia as a loser. Kyle Noak representing as a winner. He defeated Peter Sabata via TKO due to a bunch of strikes at 2:01 in round 1. And then we had Jake Matthews defeating Akbar Areloa. Who knows? Akbar. Jake Matthews defeated Akbar via TKO doctor stoppage. That's right. Doctors had to come and stop that one at 5 minutes of round 2. So, I mean, TKO, KO, submission. Those were your prelim results. There was only 3 fights of the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 3 of the 8 fights went to decision. Other ones ended in knockout or submission. We had a real winner, a real ending to a real fight. So all in all, UFC 193 was fantastic. Like I said, it broke attendance records and sales records. Primarily to being in Australia, would not have done that had it been here in the States. Congratulations to Dana White. Get well soon, Ronda. Heal, train, do some movies and some modeling, whatever you're all doing. But please get healthy, come back to the UFC, and when you do, mean it, and give us your best against Holly's best. If Holly still wins, no shame. But I don't feel that we've seen Ronda's best versus Holly's best. And I would like to see that at some point in time. All right. Balls on Fire has officially been put out. He said put out. Yeah, he said put out. Shut up, Beavis. Sorry about it. All right, well, again, you're listening to Balls Deep Sports Talk with me, Scotty Ball. Thank you so much for tuning in, whether it's on WNLMradio.com on Thursday nights now,